Welcome into the Solo Shot Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Dom Manna. Happy Solo Shot Saturday, everyone. Apologies for the delay here from the ETV Community Media Center as we had some stuff going on this morning. But here, nonetheless, and the flavor of the week from last weekend during the Little League Classic on Sunday Night Baseball was that Commissioner Robert E. Manfred Jr., who is really trying to revolutionize the game and save the game en route to what I think is a Hall of Fame career. I've given him his flowers before. Decides to add a little snippet of the potential expansion in baseball. There's been some negative things lately with Manfred about the strike, about less baseball. So he decided to, flip it on his head and say, hey, remember we were talking about giving you more baseball, more teams, more action, all those different things. And obviously with the expansion of 2 teams, at least, you have to add 2. You can't just add 1, can't add 3. It's got to be 2, 4, or 6, which 6 just does not seem plausible. So it's most likely going to be 2. That would uneven the divisions. Right now, there is 3 divisions in each league of 5 teams. So you can't just add a 6 and 1 and make that division that much harder to win by having 6 teams instead of 5. So my proposition has always been that you make 2 8-team divisions. So NL East and West, AL East and West. You have the winner of each division get a bye in the postseason. So those divisions matter. The standings matter. And then no matter which division it's out of, the next 4 best records get the wild card spots. So instead of having 3 division crowns, you have 2 division crowns, which means 2 byes and 4 wild cards. I think it makes a lot of sense. Same amount of playoff teams, not a ton of realignment. But Manfred threw in the aspect that, this could be a real big chance for us to shape up the league and to help our players, because the whole strike stuff is anti-player, help our players by making the divisions a little bit closer geographically, so the travel is a lot less taxing on our teams and on our players. The Major League Baseball season is an 162-game marathon. Whether you are on a crazy road trip or you're home for a week and a half or 2 weeks, it is a grind. It doesn't matter if you have a 5-hour flight or a 10-hour red eye. The travel adds up over time. So while, yes, I am pro player, yes, what they can do is when they break up the central divisions, which I think makes the most sense, they are the least spending and typically the least competitive divisions. So to split those up, make sure you still keep Cubs and Cardinals together. Make sure you keep certain teams together from those divisions, but make it East and West. Whatever teams are more West or whatever teams can travel to more West, make it more exciting that way. With this whole geographic realignment, people are talking about there being 4 divisions of 4 teams and it being a complete mess. Doing basically away with the American National League model, as well as moving teams. The proposition Jim Bowden made a few years ago had Yankees, Red Sox, Phillies, and Mets in one division. Not only is that a gauntlet of a division, but you're taking away the chance for a Subway Series World Series. You're taking away the Phillies, who are the longest tenured National League team. They're over 100 years old as a franchise. Taking that team out of the National League. I don't like making those big of shifts. Now, for the teams that are from the newest levels of expansion, the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Colorado Rockies, the Florida Marlins, the Tampa Bay Rays, if you want to make one of those teams swap from AL to NL, I don't think that's as big of a deal. But if you have a team long tenured like the Phillies or even the Mets, who have been in the National League since '61 as the predecessor of the New York Giants, the another newer team in baseball, I don't like that kind of realignment where it's that big of a shift. And the reason isn't just because of that deep-rooted history and those fan bases and the rivalries and memories and everything that gets shaken up when you do that. But it's also so American League and National League still have their roots. And it has to, the All-Star game has to be American League versus National League. I know John Smoltz has said he wants it to be America versus the world, which the World Baseball Classic does a much better job of that than the All-Star game should ever have to do. I am pro expansion. I'm very excited for a team in Nashville and then another team that would be more out west, like Salt Lake City or Portland. But that is still to be seen. Maybe a rebirth of an Oakland franchise would be funny to see. But I think that that's how you have to do it. You have to split it up east and west. It's going to stink for the central teams. But there has been this problem before where the Astros were a 6 team in the AL Central. So there was 16 teams in the National League and 14 teams in the American League. Well, that makes it just a little bit harder mathematically to make the postseason. So you add one expansion team to the AL, one to the NL. You make it East and West, or however you want to name the divisions. I think that makes the most sense. Top division winners make the postseason, get the bye, and then the 4 best records after that, regardless of what division they're in. But they would play the other 7 teams in their division more than everyone else. They'd still play everybody. That's how the new rules are. But they would play the teams in their division more than anyone else. And that would make for some great series like we just got. We got a 5-game series between the Brewers, who were an absolute wagon, and the Cubs. The Cubs took 3 out of 5. If the division was closer, if the Brewers hadn't went on that run, that would have been a big, big deal. It still is for the Cubs' wild card hopes. Even though they're not going to catch the division, they're still holding off the Mets in the wild card and staying in playoff position there. So those factors in the division are very, very big. My Red Sox, with a 4-game set against the Yankees, they've taken the first 2 games. Another game will be happening shortly after this is dropped. And then Sunday Night Baseball as well. They're not playing for the division. The Blue Jays are super far ahead, but they're playing for wild card status to keep their place there. And I think that's just as exciting in that when you have that division rivalry. You don't want to break up things like Dodgers, Giants, Dodgers, Padres, Yankees, Red Sox, Cubs, Cardinals, the Rangers, Astros. You don't want to break up things like that. And I think the easiest way to do that is to just dissolve one of the divisions and make it where 3 from that division go into the West, 2 and the expansion go into the East, or however it geographically makes the most sense for travel purposes. You can put that into purpose with that kind of realignment, but a full-blown burn up the American and National League, throw divisions out the window, make it a whole new landscape for 2 new teams just doesn't do it for me. And I think watching series like this Cubs Brewers 5-game set, this Red Sox Yankees 4-game set, really bring that to light and remind you of how great these big division series can be and how they will lose their luster, especially if you have one of those 4-team segmented divisions that is a central that's easier to win, a division where there's 4 small market teams that don't spend a lot of money, and they only have to be better than 3 of the others to make the postseason. I think it needs to be more than that. It needs to be bigger scale, where it gives the big market teams just as much advantage and props for spending their money as it does for the teams that are well-rounded with a smaller budget. Speaking of a big market team that had a big boost, Shane Bieber made his 2025 debut for the Blue Jays last night. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 9 strikeouts. If the Blue Jays can get the Shane Bieber we saw before the injury last season, that kind of high strikeout, low base runner percentage, he is going to be a real weapon, and something that wasn't part of why I picked the Blue Jays to win the division, but adds to a strength in their pitching staff, where Scherzer is pitching against the clock like I expected. Gossman's had a nice bounce back year. Bassett and Berrios are solid, and you've gotten strong contributions from a litany of guys at the back. I'm very, very excited for Shane Bieber to be back. This is a Cy Young winner. This is a great pitcher, a great guy from all intents and purposes. To see him get launched into a pennant race, not just a playoff push, into a pennant race is really, really exciting. And I think good for the game, good for him. And if he can pitch like this down the stretch, he's going to get a substantial contract from somebody in the offseason. Speaking of Shane's former team, the Cleveland Guardians, they are really climbing. Right now, they are 4 games out from the 3rd wildcard spot. And the only team ahead of them is the Royals, who have played good baseball, but have had a lot of injuries. Cleveland, despite selling at the trade deadline, despite having Emmanuel Clase on leave for potential gambling or throwing pitches, they just continually win games. They find a way. And everyone gives credit to Jose Ramirez. He's one of the best players on the planet. He's going for another 30-30 season. He was 1 home run away from 40-40 last year. 4, 5, 6, 7 WAR player every single year. He's fantastic, future Hall of Famer. But if you look up and down Cleveland's lineup, there's been plenty of players that have done their thing. And I'm just really, really excited to see Cleveland make a push. And it's why this Red Sox-Yankees series means so much. It's not just about trying to chase the Blue Jays for the division. They're trying to keep wild card seeding. The top wild card gets home field for the wild card round. That's a big deal. Fenway has been a huge advantage for the Red Sox this year. But they're also trying to make sure that they keep a wild card spot and don't get snuck up on by the Rangers, by the Royals, by the Guardians, by the Rangers. So all of these things mean a lot. The Guardians have lost their last 3 games, but prior to that had really climbed back up. They were 7-8 games back from the wild card spot, and now they're 4 games despite the 3-game lose streak. So I'm excited. I think Cleveland is a very good team, and some team that should never be counted out. I had them in a postseason race because of that, and I'm excited to see if they can squeak into the postseason and maybe crush the dreams of a Seattle or a Yankees, who both teams I did not have making the postseason. Here at the Solo Shot Sports Podcast, we have to throw it back down the third baseline to this day in baseball history. And while August 23rd had some really fun ones, there was a fan exhibition on this date in 1942 at Yankee Stadium where both retirees, Babe Ruth and Walter Johnson, had an at-bat against each other. Both already inducted into the Hall of Fame, both later in life had an at-bat against each other. That was really, really cool that took place at Yankee Stadium as a fan exhibition on this date in 1942. But you see the signature at the bottom of the scorecard is of the late, great Warren Spahn. And Warren Spahn is a overlooked player, as many great pitchers are in the history of the game. But on this date in 1963, Warren Spahn set a modern National League record making his 601st start, passing Grover Cleveland Alexander, while going all the way to defeat the Dodgers for his 343rd career win. But this game happened after spending the better part of the day in Los Angeles filming a episode of the TV series Combat, where Spahn, who is a decorated World War II veteran himself, appeared as an uncredited but heavily publicized bit part as a German patrol officer. His TV and his acting career was just that one episode, but it was really, really fun. He was much heralded, and the National League saw a little of him, as you will, but he probably would have won a game. Warren Spahn making history as a National League starter, getting 343rd career win after appearing on a TV set in Los Angeles, complete game win against the Dodgers. That is just an amazing day for anybody, let alone someone of his stature in 1963. Now, Warren Spahn has since been passed in the all-time starts department by a National League pitcher, by a bunch of guys: Tom Glavine, Greg Maddux, Don Sutton. There's 4 or 5 guys that have passed him in National League starts. But where Warren Spahn's greatness comes in is he has more wins than all of them, despite less starts. Warren Spahn is 6th all-time in wins with 363. It is the most by a left-handed pitcher. And the only guys ahead of Spahn are black and white photos. You might have heard of these guys: Cy Young, Walter Johnson, Grover Cleveland Alexander, Christy Mathewson, and Pud Galvin. That is incredible. And Warren Spahn's career, I think, just does not get the due that it deserves. 100.1 career WAR. His 363 wins, I said, are 6 all time, 245 losses. So a win percentage in his career of 60%. Cy Young, 17-time All-Star, won the 1957 World Series, and won 3 ERA titles and 4 straight strikeout titles. He was absolutely insane. His 119 ERA plus, with the amount of innings that he pitched, is fantastic. He finished 2nd in Cy Young voting 3 other times. He finished 3rd in Cy Young voting 2 other times. And like I said, won the Cy Young in 1957 for the championship Milwaukee Braves. A true all-time great, a American hero, a veteran of World War II, and a blink and you'll miss it TV star from the show Combat on this date in 1963. Hats off to Warren Spahn, one of the greatest to ever do it. Before I get out of here, I want to talk about the Baltimore Orioles, a team that's been surging since the All-Star break, really playing quality baseball, not looking like a last place disgrace like they did in the first half. So hats off to them. But they're in the news for a different reason today. And that's because Samuel Basallo, their top-rated prospect, who got called up to the big leagues about a week ago today. It's at 16 at-bats in the major leagues, 4 hits, batting .250, 0 WAR. Samuel Basallo signed an 8-year, $67 million contract extension with the Baltimore Orioles. This is a huge deal. The Baby O's, as they like to call it, they stockpiled a ton of hitting prospects, have not extended any of them. Gunnar Henderson looks to be way out of their price range. Adley Rutschman has regressed. Jackson Holliday hasn't lived up to expectations. Colton Cowser, Jordan Westbrook have been very good, but no contract extension. Samuel Basallo, in 16 at-bats, gets that contract extension. So much so that Baseball Reference has him listed as a catcher and pinch hitter. That's how few at bats he has in the major leagues. That pinch hitter comes up as a position for him. I think Samuel Basallo, big lefty bat, 6'4", 180. He's going to be a real problem for them, whether he's a platoon catcher, whether he's the DH for the Orioles for years to come. He's got serious power, hard hit percentage, all the red you'd like to see from his minor league stats. I think he's going to be a big part of what the O's do going forward, and I'm happy they locked him up. But it's interesting that Basallo, after 16 at-bats, is the one that gets locked up. It's almost like they learned from Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Jackson Holliday, Jordan Westburg, Colton Cowser, that if you let the guy perform too much at the major league level, that you really have to pay him money. So instead, getting out front with Samuel Basallo, maybe the first of this next wave of Orioles, to get extensions and to stay with the team. It'll be interesting to see how they build this team going forward, because Gunnar Henderson's looking like a $300 to $500 million player right now. Adley Rutschman is more accomplished than Samuel Basallo, so another 60 to 80 million there. Jordan Westburg's been an all-star, another 60 to 80 million there. Colton Cowser has been a very good two-way player. Jackson Holliday has the merit of being a number one prospect. Are they going to extend all these guys? Are they going to extend some of these guys this offseason? Are they going to just call up the guys that haven't been called up yet and extend them and trade some of the other guys? It's going to be really interesting to see how the Orioles retool and rebuild this core that at one point was looked at as the best semblance of young talent in the major leagues. Hasn't all been realized. I think a lot of it, while they had prospect value, Kobe Mayo, should have been traded for pitching. But nonetheless, they did trade Kyle Stowers and Connor Norby for Rogers, who last year did not do much for them for the playoff stretch, but has been a Cy Young candidate this year in the American League. Samuel Basallo, the catcher DH of the future for the Baltimore Orioles. It's a landmark move for a small market franchise to see, have they learned from their mistakes? How are they going to proceed forward? Is this the new vision, or do they just really believe in this one kid? I appreciate each and every one of you for spending your Solo Shot Saturday with me. If you enjoyed the video, leave it a like, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave me a review over there. It helps the show more than you know. And of course, share the show with a friend who loves the game of baseball as much as we do. I'm Dom Manna, and I'll see you guys next week.